Hi everyone, this is Ellen Cisneski with May Arts, and today I'm going to demonstrate a few things. The first thing I'm going to demonstrate is how to make this layered flower using some Stampendous stamps, and then I'm also going to show you how to weave some of this twisted burlap in an old piece of actual larger burlap, and then put it all together to make this frame. So the first thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the flower or the weaving of the burlap, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the edges of the frame. And what I did is I just did some crackle finish on here with some yellow paint and some bluish green paint to kind of accent the green and the yellows that I was using on the frame. Alright, so the first thing I did was I took this large Stampendous flower. I was instantly drawn to it because of all the different layers that it has. And I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that. I'm going to ink it up first. When I'm using really large stamps, I actually ink upside down so I can make sure I'm covering the entire stamp. See, now I can see that the whole thing is covered. And I'm just using a piece of scrap paper for this. And you want to go ahead and apply even pressure. These clings from Stampendous are great because they're large enough and workable enough. And then you're going to go ahead, and then the next step you're going to do is actually cut out the flowers. And for my project here, I actually stamped, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 times I stamped the flower. And then for each layer, what I did is I just kind of eyeballed it and cut down these strips so that I could create layers. So I'm just going to do that on this one. And for this project, I actually stamped on some pattern paper. I really like stamping on pattern paper because it gives it a really cool effect, and that way I can use coordinating papers as well. So as you can see, what I did is I just cut this flower down a little bit, and then I line it up like this. And then what you can do is actually crinkle it a little bit. Crinkle each one a little bit. And you can see how I'm going to start to get layers. And that's exactly what I did right here. I just finished it off with a little bit of burlap string. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is, let me just get my ink closed here so it doesn't dry out. The next thing I want to show you is how I did this part with the weaved burlap. What I'm going to do is I'm using a really heavy duty needle here. Most likely you'd use this for leather if you were doing something with leather. You can see how thick it is and how the twisted burlap fits in there perfectly. And the reason this is called twisted burlap, I'm going to show you in the yellow because it'll stand out a little bit better here, is because there's 3 layers of burlap string all twisted together. And that's the difference between twisted burlap and just a standard burlap string. This burlap is actually left over from my garden. I used it to cover up some plants for the winter to save them, and that's what I'm using today. So all I'm doing is I'm taking my needle, and you can see that I do a couple here, and then I go a while and don't weave again, and a couple more. And using this heavy duty needle is going to help me go right through this burlap. And see? Alright. And what I did here on the project is I left some over hanging on the edge, and I tied knots. So I'm just going to do the same thing here. Leave a little piece hang off over here. And then I'm just going to trim that there. And I'm just going to keep repeating, doing the same thing over and over again. Just pull it through. And it might get stuck. That's okay. The cool thing about working with burlap is that you can make mistakes, and it kind of has a cool working feel to it. And then I can move these around however I want to. And then I'm going to take the yellow and I'm going to continue to weave. You might need to trim your edge off and get a nice point to it to work with it. Go ahead and pull it through just like you would a standard needle, and for this one I'm going to just create some cross hatching. Oh, going over and under, over and under, and under again. Oh. Come on. Doesn't want to go. There we go. Alright. And again, I'm going to trim. What I like to do is pull it all the way through, so that way I don't have to keep rethreading my needle, because with this thicker material, it gets hard. So as you can see, I started to create a crosshatch here, and I just continue to do it with as many colors as you want, or as little colors as you want. And then when you're done, this is just going to pop right off. You're going to have a pattern here, and just take your scissor and just cut whatever pattern out that you wish. And I just did it here, frayed my burlap a little bit more on this side, and then went and adhered it to the frame. So just another idea for you to do with your Stampendous stamps. Go ahead and layer them and cut them to make layered flowers, and then your twisted burlap, weave it through burlap that you have lying around the house for a great altered home decor project. Thank you.